There was a post in 4chan at one time asking the question, hey, can you describe this Eastern character design and why they're good without sounding like a Coomer? I'm sorry, but why should I describe something without sounding like a Coomer? Coomer, in case you don't know, is someone who loves porn or a porn addict, and apparently saying that a character is sexier and more attractive makes you a Coomer. It's not a fair comparison anyways, because Abby from The Last of Us Part 2 is not meant to be a fanservice character. Well, not to our eyes at least, whereas Mai certainly is. Just like any other fighting game characters, including the ones that are not associated with Dead or Alive. And there's literally nothing wrong with that, but there is, however, something wrong with treating fictional characters as if they are real people, which is a memo that this guy didn't get.
Fictional characters in media have no autonomy. He, she, it can't consent to anything, and neither male or female characters can consent to sexualization.
So, by your logic, all video games enslave fictional characters against their will, including sexually, emotionally, spiritually, almost every way basically. Since they cannot consent to anything, then they cannot consent to being in a video game, and being played by people, and being under the mercy of the game developers' designs. Right? By the way, the context of this whole conversation starts off when a Street Fighter 6 tournament host accidentally has the nude Chun Li mod turned on, which is a pretty funny event, and the guy's trying to argue that Chun Li doesn't consent to it, or at least directly.
So the decision to make a nude mock-up of a character is very similar in mindset to creating deepfake porn.
No, it's not, because deepfake porns involve the faces of real people being plastered into the porn, whereas no one is harmed when a fictional character gets sexualized. Do you understand the difference?
The only person who said yes to this is not the one being sexualized. Therefore, you're in the same territory as violating the consent of an actual person mentally.
The difference is you can actually ask a person who is being deepfaked if they consent to being deepfaked. You can't do that to a fictional character. You absolute moron.
Now, do you honestly think most women would see this practice and feel like the person responsible has any respect for women, generally speaking?
Yes, loads of female artists out there love to draw sexy women. People's attitude towards fictional characters don't reflect their attitude towards people in real life. By this logic, killing people in games mean that you want to kill people in real life.
Maybe you do, but you're not making a very strong case.
I don't see the relevance to this whole thing. I guess you're trying to say that people's attitudes towards fictional characters reflect people's attitudes in real life. Again, you might as well say that killing people in games means you're killing people in real life, because that's how you sound.
A deepfake isn't real either, but you wouldn't be okay with someone putting your face on porn you didn't agree to, I hope.
That's because I'm a real person, and not only I can say that I don't consent to it, I can even straight up sue you for it. Can you ask a fictional character if they consent to it? Are we gonna be sued by Saul Goodman for this?
Who did this to me? Who can I sue?
In the case of a fictional character, it's still not okay.
It's totally okay, but carry on.
The same logic applies.
It doesn't, because the character in question is fiction, and you cannot ask for their consent.
Only you're violating someone else's IP to be a sad pervert.
Wait a second. So, are you suggesting that fictional characters can consent by legal proxy? Then by that logic, every female character that is being sexualized by the game developers have signed their consent to it. Do you realize the implications that you have made with this statement? By your logic, video game characters consent to being killed.
By this logic, you might as well just say video games should not exist, since they have no autonomy over players controlling them.
Exactly! No fictional characters ever consent to being someone else's puppet, but here we are, controlling them with our controllers like a freaking puppeteer monster that we are.
You can't see the difference between playing a game as designed versus modifying a character model to strip its clothes off? Tell me you're not this stupid.
So you are saying that fictional characters can consent by legal proxy. Tell me you are not this stupid.
If you press a button that's programmed to make a character jump and they jump, that is consent to the player's actions as designed.
Oh my god! Wow! You are actually saying that fictional characters can consent by legal proxy. This is actually some of the most bewildering arguments I have ever encountered on the net. Not only this contradicts your first statement of fictional characters not being able to consent, but your argument also opens up a huge can of worms of implications, like how, by your logic, this video game is totally 100% consensual because the characters are programmed by the game developers to be sexually violated without their consent. Phew, that's one hell of a crazy take. There are more crazy takes coming up in this video, but there are loads and loads of them in my stream channel, APB Show, link down below. Go subscribe. I swear quite a lot, and even I timestamp the hooplas for your pleasure. Anyway, let's get to the next hoopla. Relationship is work and work is hard. This is something that adults need to understand before they give it a try. While being loved is really fun, the heartbreak is definitely not, and you will have to endure that eventually. Not only that it is not fun, but you also got adult responsibilities that you have to deal with as a couple. If you can't deal with your own responsibilities as an adult, then don't add someone else into the mix. You're only making it twice as worse. Point is, relationship is work and work is hard. So if you don't like work, don't get into relationships. That said, I can understand why people desire them, like this person over here.
I'm turning 22 in 5 months and I've never been in a serious relationship ever. This isn't normal.
Actually, it is pretty normal. You are not alone in this matter. Heck, since there are loads of people in the same boat as you, all you need to do is to find them.
But when I think about a first date with a man, I feel like throwing up and hiding under my bed for 5 years. How can I fix this?
Yeah, sorry to say this, but relationship is not easy. It's definitely a lot of work. You're gonna have to make sacrifices and commitments even before you put on the ring. Yes, even before you put on the ring, there are loads of sacrifices and commitments that you have to be willing to put yourself through. This is precisely why I cannot recommend people going into relationships. It's a lot of work and a lot of risk, especially to those people who just want to have that relationship cake and eat it too. If you don't want to be in a relationship where you don't deal with your partner's BS, and you don't want your partner to deal with your BS, then stick to your waifus or husbandos. They will deal with your BS much better.
Serious relationships are overrated. Just be a hoe.
I mean, yeah, that is one of the options you can take.
Okay, master. Let's kill the hole.
You see, I tried this, but I felt so empty inside. Oh my god, I am cursed.
Yeah, these words are typically said to someone who doesn't understand the cons of going into relationships. There are loads of cons going into relationships. I mean, yes, the sex is good. Yes, it feels amazing to love someone and be loved by them, but you have to work to get those. You have to be willing to commit to it to get those. You have to make sacrifices. And this applies to both partners. If they are unwilling to make the same sacrifices to you, the same way you make sacrifices to them, you are potentially dealing with a gold digger.
Why do normies act like missing a developmental milestones isn't a big deal?
Because it really isn't. I don't understand what's so special about these milestones, but hey, let's break them down. See what's going on with them.
Teenage love.
I'm seriously feeling some deja vu right now. We talked about this a while back. Teenage love is not eternal, and if you manage to go so far as to third base, you're gonna have issues when you reach adulthood, especially when they lack sex education and don't know what birth control is.
Lose virginity when 17.
I too didn't lose my virginity at 17, and it's much better that way in retrospect because during my teenage years, I get to enjoy playing video games. This really isn't that much of a milestone as you're portraying it out to be.
Large friends group.
Remember when I said about relationships being a lot of work? Well, thankfully, large friends groups are people that you don't have to make too much commitments on, but they are still not the main goals of life. And there will be cases where peer pressure off of your friends groups might lead you to making terrible decisions in life. So even then, it's not exactly a good thing.
Have the high school or college experience everyone so fondly remembers.
Well, I've had college twice, and they're not worth remembering, aside from a couple or two memories, and the fact that you got your degrees. That is assuming that you got your degrees.
None of the milestones you miss are a big deal, because everyone develops at their own rate, and everyone's story is different.
That is a good point, OP. I don't see anything wrong with this. But I guess because you're jealous of people's accomplishments, it makes sense why you think this way. Maybe you should remove the people that make you think this way so that you can realize that life is a lot more than just milestones on every phase of life. And that you can still accomplish great things today, even if you totally fumbled in the past. Whether it's your fault or somebody else's fault. This one is just too funny for me to not talk about, even though this is a 2020 article. So let's pretend for a second that this is 2020 because I want to talk about this absolutely entertaining affair that I call the woke civil war. That's the best way for me to describe it. It's a civil war happening between all the woke people who are in conflict with their ideologies and actions. It's kind of like the Barbie movie, except in real life.
Why won't woke boys pay for sex?
The same reason why traditional conservatives won't pay for sex. Because you are propagating an idea that women are sacred and should be protected. They shouldn't be objectified or sexualized. The difference is, traditional conservatives don't tolerate their women to be sex workers. The feminists absolutely do. Or at least the sex-positive ones. So to make a long story short, this is a story of a trans woman who is a sex worker and didn't get enough customers. Welcome to capitalism, my friend. Also, this person fundamentally misunderstood the concept of supporting people's rights to do something and actually doing it. Just because I support your right to be a sex worker and be free and all, that doesn't mean that I personally will consume the stuff that you promote or do. It's just like me and multiplayer video games. Just because I support people's rights to play and enjoy multiplayer games doesn't mean that I will actively participate in them. Unfortunately, it's this fundamental misunderstanding that caused this trans sex worker OP to be subjected into the horrors of capitalism, not having enough customers. And this is especially apparent when the whole affair was from 2020, which was the absolute peak of the pandemic, and people are having the worst economic crisis that they have been through in decades. So you not having customers during that time, it's totally understandable and makes sense. It's just that I'm not sure you understand why. I bring this article up because this article brings this amazing point that just made me laugh.
For one, these guys support decriminalizing sex work because they're feminists, but they also seem to not pay for sex because they're feminists.
Yes. Yes.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
That's entirely on you. This is your fault. The problem with your idea of respecting women and not treating them as objects is that sex workers objectify themselves. That's their marketing tactic to please men. That's how they beat the patriarchy, by submitting to the patriarchy. Thank you, Barbie movie, for that amazing guideline to beat the patriarchy. You are unintentionally encouraging women to be manipulative sluts who trick boys into submitting themselves to you. You feminists complaining about patriarchy seriously underestimate the power of your femininity. Yeah, you know what, feminists? If you want to support sex workers, or for that matter, be a sex worker yourself, then maybe you should let people objectify women and treat them like sex objects, because that's how sex workers get their customers. That's how customers support sex workers. You know customers, right? The people that will pay for your services so you can pay your bills and other stuff you need. Or here's an even more controversial suggestion. Don't be a sex worker and actually be a strong, independent woman who have proper educations and jobs that can contribute to society, which is what you always propagate in your feminist ideology. You always tell women to go to work and all that, but you seem to fail to put those words in your own. God, this reminds me of that time where that woman complained that she had to do lots of work and that she wanted women's rights to go backwards. I'm not saying that sex work is not work. Anyone who had sex will know for sure that it is a lot of work. I'm just saying there are many other works out there that will adhere to your feminist ideology than sex work. But I am being generous to assume that feminists, work. And that is all for the video today, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to give it a like if you like it, and subscribe if you want to see more. And as always, huge thanks to all of these absolute freaking legends and contributors to this small channel. If you want to see your names among these awesome people, then check out the links down below where you can just contribute $1 and you have contributed so much to this channel. Seriously, thank you so much, and I will see you all next time.